First contact catastrophe. The long-range scanner pulsed with an unfamiliar signature, drawing Fleet Observer Zixtal's attention away from the star charts scattered across the command console. The Vaxilorian scout ship, Eternal Vigilance, had been patrolling the outer reaches of Sector 7, officially neutral space, but everyone knew the collective considered it their territory. "Analyze that signature," Zixtal ordered, 6 tentacle-like appendages tightening around his captain's seat. His iridescent scales flickered with concern as the ship's AI processed the request. "Unknown vessel configuration," responded the measured, artificial voice of the ship's intelligence. "Power signatures exceed standard classification parameters. Recommend immediate withdrawal and reporting to Collective High Command." Zixtal's jaw ridges tightened. In 300 cycles of service to the Collective, he had never encountered an unregistered ship of significant size. The 12 species of the Galactic Collective had maintained peaceful dominance of this quadrant for millennia. Occasionally, primitive species would achieve rudimentary spaceflight, but they were quickly cataloged, contained, and eventually assimilated when they reached an appropriate developmental stage. "Visual confirmation," he demanded, ignoring the AI's recommendation. The main viewing portal shimmered before resolving into a startlingly clear image that caused the bridge crew to fall silent. Against the backdrop of stars hung a vessel unlike anything in the collective database, where Vaxilorian ships were elegant, organic curves that mimicked the natural world. This ship was all hard angles and exposed infrastructure. Jutting protrusions lined its hull in patterns that made no aesthetic sense but screamed of functionality. "Magnify," Zixtal whispered. The image zoomed in on the hull markings. "UEA's Intrepid." "Origin species?" he asked, already suspecting the answer. "Human," confirmed his science officer, Kelazur, antenna twitching nervously. "We've received intelligence about their expansion, but nothing suggested this level of technological advancement." Rumors had circulated through the collective for decades about the aggressive bipeds from a backwater system. Officially, humans were classified as a Level 3 species, achieved atomic energy, but pre-FTL travel. This vessel suggested that classification was catastrophically wrong. "They've detected us," announced the tactical officer, voice rising in pitch. "Their scanning arrays have locked onto our position." "Impossible," Zixtal retorted. "Our cloaking technology is impenetrable to Level 3 detection systems." "They're hailing us," the communications specialist interrupted, compound eyes widening in disbelief. Zixtal hesitated only briefly before nodding. "Open the channel." The viewing portal flickered, and the bridge crew collectively recoiled at the alien visage that appeared. The human was disconcertingly similar to several collective species, yet utterly foreign. Its skin lacked scales or protective plating, looking soft and vulnerable. 2 penetrating eyes stared out from a face framed by dark fur. "This is Captain Elena Reyes of the United Earth ship Intrepid." The translator struggled with the harsh sounds of human speech. "Unidentified vessel, you are conducting surveillance operations in United Earth space. State your purpose or be considered hostile." Zixtal's scales rippled in alarm. The primitive was threatening them. The absurdity nearly made him laugh, but diplomatic training took over. "I am Fleet Observer Zixtal of the Galactic Collective. We are conducting routine observation of unregistered spatial anomalies. Your presence here is unexpected as our records indicate your species has not yet achieved interstellar capabilities." The human's expression shifted subtly. "Your records are outdated, Observer. Humanity achieved FTL travel 73 years ago. This sector falls under the protection of the Earth Alliance according to the Proxima Accords." "We recognize no such accords," Zixtal replied coolly. "The Collective has claimed stewardship of this quadrant for 12,000 cycles. Your presence will need to be evaluated by the Assimilation Council to determine appropriate integration protocols." The human's face hardened in a way that even Zixtal, unfamiliar with their expressions, could interpret as dangerous. "Let me be clear, Observer. We do not recognize your authority in this sector, nor do we have any interest in being integrated into your collective. We suggest you withdraw and inform your leadership that Earth wishes to establish diplomatic relations on equal terms. Equal terms with primitives. Zixtal's patience evaporated. Your species lacks the developmental maturity for equal standing. The collective will guide your integration as we have done for all emergent species. Prepare to receive a delegation. That won't be happening, Captain Reyes interrupted. We've detected your scanning attempts at our defense systems. Consider this your only warning. Cease all aggressive scanning, or we will respond accordingly. Zixtal turned to his tactical officer in confusion. Are we conducting weapons scans? Standard protocol. Observer, the officer confirmed. Passive scanning only, nothing that could be interpreted as. A proximity alarm shrieked across the bridge. The tactical display showed multiple objects materializing around the Eternal Vigilance, having appeared out of nowhere. Mines, shouted the tactical officer. Impossible, Zixtal hissed. They couldn't have deployed. Those aren't mines, the science officer interrupted, voice hushed with fear. They're microships, hundreds of them. On the viewing portal, Captain Reyes remained impassive. Those are autonomous defense drones. They're currently in passive mode, but will respond instantly to any hostile action. You dare threaten a collective vessel? Zixtal's voice rose with indignation. This isn't a threat, observer. It's a demonstration of capabilities you seem unwilling to acknowledge. We've monitored your collective for decades while you believed us confined to our solar system. Your technological superiority is an illusion. The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. If humans had been observing them undetected, what else might they be capable of? You have a choice, Reyes continued. Return to your collective with an invitation for peaceful diplomatic relations, or continue this path of condescension and discover why 3 other expansionist empires have already learned to give Earth a wide berth. 3 empires, Kelzor whispered. The Krax Dominion collapsed 2 cycles ago after encountering an insurmountable tactical obstacle. Zixtal felt cold dread spreading through his circulatory system. What are your terms for diplomatic engagement? Recognition of Earth's sovereign territories, non-interference in human affairs, and mutual defense against common threats. Reyes replied immediately. We have no interest in your internal governance or expansion elsewhere. The collective does not recognize sovereign claims from Level 3. Your classification system is irrelevant to us. Reyes cut in. And if you still believe we're Level 3, you're more dangerously misinformed than I thought. As if to emphasize her point, the viewing portal suddenly split to show multiple angles of the Eternal Vigilance, images that could only have been captured by the drones surrounding them. One image zoomed in on a section of hull plating, where the ship's primary defense matrix was housed, displaying a detailed schematic of its inner workings. Your primary shield generator has a phase variance of 0.03 at peak output, Reyes noted casually. That's enough for one of our standard penetrator rounds to bypass completely. You might want to address that design flaw. The tactical officer frantically confirmed her assessment, face paling to a sickly blue. She's right. Observer. How could they possibly know that? Zixtal's mind raced. The implications were staggering. If these humans could detect such specific weaknesses after a brief encounter, the collective's technological supremacy, the foundation of their galactic influence, was a house of cards. We will relay your invitation to the Collective Council, Zixtal finally managed, his voice steadier than he felt. Excellent, Reyes nodded. You have 12 hours to clear this sector. After that, we'll consider your presence an act of espionage. The communication ended abruptly, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Set course for collective space, Zixtal ordered, his voice hollow. Maximum velocity. As the Eternal Vigilance accelerated away from the human vessel, Zixtal stared at the tactical display, showing the UES Intrepid growing smaller in their wake. For the first time in his career, he felt true fear, not for himself, but for the entire collective and the comfortable certainty that had defined their existence for millennia. The humans weren't just another species to be assimilated. They were something the collective had never encountered before, equals who had observed, analyzed, and outmaneuvered them before they even knew they were at a disadvantage. "Send an emergency priority message to High Command," Zixtal whispered. "Classification: existential threat." On the retreating view screen, the angular human warship hung against the stars like a predator at rest, patient, dangerous, and utterly confident in its dominance. The age of collective supremacy was over, and a new era had begun with a single, terrifying revelation. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage, and they had been watching from the shadows all along. The reckoning. The Grand Assembly Chamber of the Collective High Council had never been convened with such urgency. Representatives from all 12 member species sat in concentric rings beneath the vast crystalline dome, their agitation evident even across species with radically different physiologies. Fleet Observer Zixtal stood at the center of the chamber, his report having sent shockwaves through the gathered leadership. "This information must be contained," insisted Councillor Vrex, the ancient Moldraxi representative, whose species had founded the collective 8,000 cycles ago. His scaled skin had paled to a sickly gray as the implications of Zixtal's encounter sank in. "If word spreads that we've been observed and analyzed by primitives for decades, it will destabilize the entire quadrant. Containment is no longer an option," countered Admiral Hishva of the Defense Fleet, her chitinous exoskeleton clicking in agitation. "We must prepare for the possibility that these humans have already shared our weaknesses with other non-collective species." The High Counselor, a towering Xalax whose translucent body pulsed with bioluminescent patterns indicating extreme distress, raised all 4 arms for silence. "Before we debate further, we must determine the full extent of human capabilities. Observer Zixtal, what evidence do we have of previous human encounters with spacefaring civilizations?" Zixtal stepped forward, keenly aware that his career, possibly his life, hung on the next few moments. The human captain referenced 3 previous conflicts with expansionist empires. "Our intelligence suggests the Crack's dominion's sudden collapse 2 cycles ago coincides with their expansion into what we now know is human-claimed territory." "Preposterous," scoffed Vrex. "The Cracks controlled 1,200 star systems and had a military that rivaled our own. They were defeated by internal rebellion, not some upstart species." That was the official explanation, Admiral Hishva interjected, mandibles twitching nervously. "But our deep cover assets reported unusual weapon signatures and tactics unlike anything in our database before communications went dark." A holographic display activated at the center of the chamber, showing the scattered remnants of a once mighty battle fleet. Twisted hulls and shattered vessels drifted in silent testament to a devastating defeat. These images were captured by an automated probe at the edge of former Crack space, explained the Admiral. "Whatever destroyed their 7th Fleet left no survivors and employed weapons that bypassed shielding technologies we considered impenetrable." Murmurs of alarm spread through the assembly. The Cracks had been brutal expansionists, but their technological capabilities had been respected, even feared. "There's more," Zixtal continued, his voice steady despite his inner turmoil. 3 cycles ago, we received reports of unusual activity in the Torali Expanse. An unidentified fleet engaged and destroyed a Skreath hunting pack that had dominated that region for generations. The holographic display shifted to show grainy footage of angular ships, unmistakably similar to the UES Intrepid, executing maneuvers that seemed to defy conventional physics, cutting through the organic warships of the predatory Skreath with surgical precision. "We dismissed these reports as exaggerated tales from traders," Admiral Hishva admitted. "The Skreath were apex predators, evolutionary perfection. Their neural integrated ships could anticipate and counter any conventional attack strategy. Yet they were systematically eliminated," Zixtal pointed out. "Their collapse created a power vacuum in 3 sectors that we've been unable to fill due to unexplained equipment failures whenever our ships approach certain systems." High Counselor Savis's bioluminescence pulsed rapidly, the Talax equivalent of a troubled sigh. Why have humans remained hidden while developing such capabilities? It defies all established patterns of species development. I believe I can answer that, offered Science Director Meln, the diminutive ethereal representative whose species specialized in xenopsychology. We've been monitoring Earth's information networks for decades. Humans are remarkable not for their technology, but for their unprecedented psychological diversity and adaptive capacity. A cascade of Earth media filled the holographic display. News reports, entertainment broadcasts, historical documentaries, all showing the chaotic, contradictory nature of human civilization. Unlike our species, which evolved toward psychological consensus, Meln explained, humans maintain extreme diversity of thought. They simultaneously prepare for war while yearning for peace. They create art celebrating life while developing weapons of mass destruction. Most critically, they learn from failure instead of avoiding it. What does this have to do with their military capabilities? Demanded Vrex impatiently. Everything, Meln replied. While we perfect a technology before implementation, humans deploy imperfect systems and improve them through iteration. While we seek consensus, they thrive on debate and competing ideas. Evolution selected them for adaptability above all else. They can change strategies, beliefs, and technologies faster than any species we've encountered. Enough psychoanalysis, snapped Admiral Hishva. We need a military assessment. Can we contain this threat? Tactical Analyst Korv, a veteran of countless conflicts, stepped forward. Conventional engagement would be inadvisable. Human warfare appears to be asymmetric by nature. Their historical conflicts show they rarely play to an enemy's strengths. They find weaknesses and exploit them mercilessly. So we strike first, Vrex declared. Overwhelm them before they can adapt. I would caution against that approach, Korv replied carefully. If they've been observing us undetected for decades, they likely have contingencies for direct conflict. Remember, they allowed fleet observer Zixtal to return with knowledge of their capabilities. That suggests confidence, not fear. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The collective had maintained galactic stability through technological superiority and the careful management of emerging species. Humans had appended this paradigm entirely. We have no choice but to demonstrate our full military might, Vrex finally declared. I propose we assemble the combined fleet and move to secure the contested sector. When faced with our overwhelming strength, these humans will recognize the futility of resistance. Despite misgivings, the High Council approved the plan. Within days, the largest collective fleet ever assembled, 300 capital ships and over 1,000 support vessels, converged at the edge of what the humans claimed as their territory. Admiral Hishva, commanding from the dreadnought Eternal Dominance, felt uncharacteristic apprehension as they prepared to cross into the contested sector. Any sign of human vessels? None, Admiral, her tactical officer reported. Long-range scans show no artificial structures or energy signatures within 5 light years. That's concerning, Hishva muttered. Either human detection capabilities were even more advanced than they thought, or this was a trap. Proceed with caution. Deploy reconnaissance drones in standard search pattern. The magnificent fleet advanced in perfect formation, a testament to thousands of years of military evolution. For 3 days, they moved deeper into supposedly human territory without encounter, tension building with each passing hour. Admiral, her communications officer suddenly called out, "We're receiving a transmission. Origin point unknown." On screen, Hishva ordered. The familiar face of Captain Alina Reyes appeared, looking remarkably unconcerned for someone facing the most powerful fleet in known space. Admiral Hishva, Reyes greeted her by name, a detail that sent a chill through the collective commander. I see the collective has chosen demonstration over diplomacy. Disappointing, but not unexpected. You faced the combined might of 12 ancient civilizations, Hishva replied, forcing confidence into her voice. We demand immediate recognition of collective authority and surrender of all military assets. Rais sighed. We've studied your history, Admiral. The collective began with noble intentions, stability, mutual protection, cultural exchange. But over millennia, you've become exactly what you once stood against: conquerors who deny the self-determination of other species. Philosophical debates are irrelevant, Hishva snapped. Your primitive fleet cannot stand against us. That's where you're wrong, Rais replied calmly. We don't need to stand against you. You've already lost. Enough riddles. Hishva's patience evaporated. Where is your fleet? We don't mass our ships like you do, Admiral. Centralized formations are vulnerable to decisive strikes. Humanity learned that lesson centuries ago. As if on cue, alarm klaxons wailed across the bridge. Admiral, the tactical officer cried. Multiple energy spikes throughout the fleet. Our systems are being accessed remotely. On every ship in the collective armada, control consoles flickered as command protocols were overridden. Weapon systems powered down, engines stalled, and communications channels filled with the same message, broadcast in perfect collective standard. Your fleet has been compromised. For the past 6 months, every supply vessel, maintenance drone, and update package delivered to your ships has contained dormant quantum infiltration protocols. We now control your propulsion, weapons, and life support systems. Horror spread across Hishva's face as she realized the trap had been sprung long before they ever assembled the fleet. The humans hadn't needed to match their military strength. They had simply turned it against itself. Impossible, she whispered, even as the evidence played out before her eyes. Small, stealth human vessels suddenly decloaked throughout the fleet formation. Not hundreds of warships, but merely dozens of specialized infiltration craft that had been shadowing them undetected, activating the dormant programs and establishing control links. Admiral, we're being hailed fleet-wide, the communications officer reported unnecessarily, as Captain Rice's face appeared on every screen throughout the armada. Officers and crew of the collective, Rice addressed them. Your leaders have placed you in an untenable position through arrogance and miscalculation. We have no desire for conflict with your peoples. In exactly 1 hour, control of your vessels will be returned, and you will be free to depart. All weapon systems will remain offline for 24 hours to ensure an orderly withdrawal. The transmission ended, leaving the mighty collective fleet drifting helplessly. 6 hours later, a much diminished High Council convened an emergency session. Admiral Hishva, her career in ruins, nevertheless spoke with newfound clarity. The humans could have destroyed us utterly, she reported. Instead, they demonstrated control, returned our ships intact, and provided these. She placed a small data crystal on the central dais. It projected a detailed peace proposal outlining human territorial claims, offering non-aggression pacts, and suggesting areas of potential cooperation from scientific exchange to mutual defense. They're offering us partnership instead of submission, Science Director Meln observed, wonder in his voice. Despite our aggression, or perhaps because of it, suggested Xavis, the High Counselor's bioluminescence now steadier. They showed us that military confrontation is futile, making diplomacy the only rational choice. We cannot trust these humans, Vrex insisted, though his vehemence had diminished considerably. This could be a ploy to lower our defenses. I believe it is something else entirely. Zixtal spoke up. In my research since our encounter, I discovered a human concept called mutually assured destruction. For centuries, human nations maintained peace not through conquest, but the knowledge that conflict would devastate both sides. They're applying the same principle to interspecies relations, Meln realized. By demonstrating they could destroy us, but choosing restraint, they establish both capability and intention. The debate continued for days, but the outcome was inevitable. The collective, for the first time in its long history, would treat with another species as equals. 1 year later, Fleet Observer Zixtal. now Ambassador Zixtal, stood on the observation deck of Earth's orbital diplomatic station, watching his homeworld rise over the blue-green planet that had changed the galaxy's balance of power. Captain Rise joined him, now wearing the formal uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps. "Beautiful view, isn't it?" "Indeed," Zixtal agreed. "Though I admit, when I first encountered your ship, I never imagined standing here as an ally." "History is full of enemies who became friends," Rise replied. "Sometimes all it takes is a sufficiently compelling demonstration that cooperation is preferable to conflict. A lesson the collective needed to learn," Zixtal acknowledged. "For millennia, we believed our way was the only path to stability. You showed us that diversity can be a strength, not a threat. And you've shown us that ancient wisdom still has value," Rise countered. "The cultural exchange programs are already yielding benefits for both our peoples." Below them, Earth continued its eternal rotation, a world that had remained hidden in plain sight until it was ready to emerge, not as conquerors or subjects, but as architects of a new galactic order where strength was measured not by dominance, but by the ability to turn potential enemies into allies. The peace remained fragile, built on mutual respect, tempered by the knowledge that humanity could have chosen destruction instead of diplomacy. It was a delicate balance, but one that promised a future neither humans nor the collective could have achieved alone. And across the stars, other civilizations watched and wondered what this unprecedented